Spoiler alarm, the paper contains several substance on the story points of the Handmaid's story. The other episode of the Handmaid's story came to an end on Saturday overnight. The episode went for Margaret Atwood's unique Roman, in her bless, but how so did the Shah do in widening the Roman for its designed life cycle, and how hard is it to go for the volume of an proclaimed writer Love Atwood? This Roman ends rather controversially, says Yulia Rayside, who has spelled the trustees' scene-by-scene manual to episode 2 of the Handmaid's story. I believe the at first pair of episodes were lightly misjudged, says Rayside, or I miracle how lot cruelty Atwood very coordinated in, yet on the entire he's been a enchanting look. Several of the part and color they've added has been shiny, for sample, detailed information on the mode and how the otherwise of the planet sees the Republic of Gilead. The scene while the captain and his woman go to Canada and are initially welcomed is a private allocate. The Freelance's Civilization text editor, Christopher Hooton, agrees how common the other episode is a triumphant proverb, it may be the top adapt and expansion of a Roman today. This change to a contemporary day installation has done the horrors of Gilead appear all the more than absolute and immediate, if he's the Millennium Letter possessing so newly been jumping light-hearted among Stick in an Uber, or June recovering for her flee by observer several friends on an iPad. He telephone call the go for the Roman to the other time of year seamlessly, and says, this at first part was for me though superior rather than lot of time of year a. This Shaw's just actual stammer came in the time of year final, he says, that Thick felt more than George Lucas rather than Margaret Atwood as June stretched her cowl up and led behind in the brawl. The AMD Thick felt constrained for the at first period. Todd Vanderwerf, reviewer at Big 4 Vox, says, yet, how a quantity of flaws include already crept in. Which will ultimately load the Shaw is how you can see the wheels lathe wherever they requirement to hold it departure for the following time of year. Atwood showed a diminutive box in The Terrible Planet, but they are manufacturing it a lot greater box. He's hard to do the out of it lathe in poverty porno. So later you include to enter new cigarette lighter beginnings, that run the hazard of creature over sentimental and sugary in their environment, Van der Werf says. I believe the Shaw is nice freelance of the present policy position. In the West Planet, we include the creep title of authoritative ideas at the fringes of the policy field, but I miracle how lot appetite suppressant down there would be for the Handmaid's story out of the life of Donald Trump card as the CEO. I question he'd win as lot as awards. Rayside, yet, admits at the spot she yet has appetite suppressant for more than, I'd love to see more than of how the mode came to force, how he's work. The way they keep a episode in Handmaid's story is distinctive, and tool thou'll wish to look more than. Is coup on the path? Hooton says, I usually choose shows to be economical in regulation of quantity of change of seasons, but I believe the Handmaid's story is a uncommon sample wherever thing much longer could job. Down there are quite exciting facets to the Shaw's world to fill in more than change of seasons, though we may requirement to move in various letter shoes for a time as the cable did. Take a TV Shaw for its resource content is not new, but has surely be more than aspiring in its environment, onto Rayside, length shape substance has be the new item. He's a new technique of TV manufacturing that wasn't about 20 years back. The TV production didn't utilize to fair choose up and run in a deductible no question if it had any legs or no. Down there was a bit more than awe in ancient fashioned television, she adds, wherever you wouldn't vision of manufacturing up new developments for a nature since it wasn't yours nature. I believe TV has be cheekier. Trusty TV reviewer Sam Wollaston points out down there is a lot of finance profit in length term substance. TV is all on episode these days, studios are never departure to offer up on a large auditorium love how. Play of Thrones is an evident sample of wherever the TV episode has outpaced the writer's resource content to hold up in consumer demand, and made in evolving successful, on to Van der Werf. By episode 6 the Shaw creative professionals David Benioff and D.B. Weiss had already lost for George R.R. Martin's 5 novels. And in spite creature stipulated in a short history arc by the writer, Van der Werf says the last change of seasons therefore sense love they are bouncing via story points. It makes no feeling territorially, and feels love they are racing via to a definitive finding. And Hooton thinks the path of the Shah has been profiled by fans' consumer expectations. This position in Play of Thrones is exciting, the Shah possessing morphed of a kind of policy one to an all-out war epical. I believe that has more than to do in the buzz and waiting upcoming of TV audience rather than adapt, yet. TV adaptations include a cunning balance act among depicting a loyal picture of the planet in that they are kit, and expansion them. And the successful of a Shah completely depends on who's making the adapt, says Rayside. Who loves Stephen Moffat does it very wisely in Sherlock and canters off in the concept. Wollaston agrees, Sherlock is so for the unique novels, but down there is a type of ghost of him in the episode. He's made very so since down there are nods to Arthur Conan Doyle all above the location. Some shows include Made the Less Than So, in Van der Werf terming problematical The Walk Corpse, that was initially relying on a comical volume episode, since it became length and too lot of a bounce. The identical material fair stored event. Wollaston says he completely stopped Observer the Shah for the history pair of episodes since it had be too absurd. In the Bondmaid story although, I believe he's okay for it to include transferred on since he's a planet and a position, and I believe how planned in some worlds, love Play of Thrones, that go on the concept this Bondmaid story has never been more than pertinent and it yet resonates, he adds. This reality how the Bondmaid gear is yet creature utilized as a outcry character type of speaks for himself.